What's up YouTube, this is Giant Jib 3 here, and if you haven't noticed, that Bigbutt is the concert bull, or as I like to call him, the little butt. And you might be wondering why I'm showing this off. We can already do model swaps. This is not a demonstration of model swaps. This is a demonstration of changing how it acts. I just killed Bigbutt. So, let me explain in terms of machine states what this means. So I've already made a video about state machines, and if you haven't watched that video yet, I highly recommend it. Better graphics or whatever, very simplified version. I'm about to go into a little bit more detail. So let's say you create an actor. Usually in the decomp, that will look something like this. Actor info, the name of the variable, the marker, the actor, the asset for the model, potentially animations, an update function, a secondary update function, and a draw function. And then there's some other extra stuff that won't pertain to this video, so don't worry about it. Whenever you create an actor, it will have those functions. However, it won't necessarily have the markers of how it reacts to when you hit it or when it hits you. It won't necessarily have the initial speed on which it should be at, depending on like what kind of that enemy or entity, whatever it is. So whenever you make an actor for the first time, it will have the state of 0. Typically, whenever after you give it specific parameters, you're like, I want to have this, this, and this. Let me actually show that off in the Bigbutt file. Let me look at this update function, and it's always within the update function. You'll see that if it's not initialized, give it these initial values, right? And then you will typically set its state to be 1. This is, for most things, the idle state. This has to do with, like, enemies standing still, just kind of, like, blinking or, like, barely moving around. This has to do with, like, propellers and stuff just rotating. In fact, propellers just always have that state. They, like, never die or anything. They never, like, well, some of them slow down and stuff. They'll have different states, but you get the idea. This is the default state. If you think of, like, the beehive as an example, this is just the beehive bouncing up and down. Now, some enemies have random states that they can go to. As an example, with Bigbutt, Bigbutt can randomly eat the grass. Now, these numbers don't pertain to the Bigbutt specifically, but just the concept of it. If during a certain timer, Bigbutt will check, should I, like, in state 1, should I be doing some random other animation? If so, start doing that, right? And then once this animation's done, it'll go back to going back to its idle state. This also has to do with Bigbutt, like, frolicking around, chasing like an invisible butterfly or whatever, right? In either of these two cases, Bigbutt can see the player is within a certain range and will be alerted. In that case, we will move to another state. In this example's case, we're moving to state 3. This is the alert state. This is where most enemies start turning towards Banjo, but haven't yet started the attack yet. Because for the most part, most enemies have to face Banjo in order to do their calculations properly. If the player were to move out of range, they would just go back to state 1. Now, let's say you've been within range long enough and Bigbutt's looking at you. Now Bigbutt's starting to, like, do its little charge attack and starts running at you, right? This is now the attack state. This is where Bigbutt starts chasing you and, like, starts skidding and everything, right? From here, if the player goes out of range, we go back to the first state. But there's multiple other interactions that can happen once Bigbutt starts, like, getting ready to attack you and stuff. And even, like, before that, but I'm only going to draw the lines once because There's going to be a lot of lions on this screen. If the player attacks Bigbutt, Bigbutt will go into either the ow state, which I'm going to label as 5. It's where you see Bigbutt kind of like recoil backwards, and usually Banjo hops backwards a little bit too. Some exceptions might be when you use eggs, because some enemies can take multiple eggs. And then 6, like as an example state, would be when Bigbutt runs out of health. Every actor starts off with 99 health, and there is a table to show if Banjo does this specific move to this actor, like the hitbox collides, get rid of this much health. Now, it's not actually this much health. It's actually more of a percentage of health. So as an example, if you see a 1 there, that means it only takes 1 hit of this move to knock it into the next state. 2 means 2 attacks required. So it would do 50% of its health. Moving on from there. For Bigbutt specifically, right? If Bigbutt is knocked down into his out of health state, they pronouns, it's Pride Month, welcome to Pride Month, Bigbutt will lie down on the floor for like 4 seconds or so. After those 4 seconds, Bigbutt will get up, and that's a whole animation on its own. And then Bigbutt will get up and go back to the idle state. There's like obviously like lions going from 3 to 5, 5 to 4, 5 to 1. I'm not drawing that right now, but you get the point of how Bigbutt works. Now, what did I do to change it so that you can kill Bigbutt? I said, stop it here, despawn Bigbutt. So let's actually look at the code changes I made. So let's actually go to the very top, and you'll see that I did switch the actor for the small butt and the big butt. What does that do? If I go to Banjo's backpack, let me open it up right now, and I were to look at base game, and let's go to Mumbo's Mountain. This is normally Bigbutt, right? If I click on him, you'll see that his object ID or his actor ID is 4. Going back to the code, you'll see that it is 4 here as well. So all I really did was I said, whenever you see an instance of Bigbutt spawning, instead spawn my small butt or little butt, however you want to call it, right? I left the animations the same. I left the update function the same. The second update function and the draw the same. Like everything else is the same, not a big deal. I also changed the marker here, right? This marker is specifically for small butt, and you can find that marker in this collision table. Now, I had to increase the table by 1, and I also documented a little bit, so you can ignore that value. But I increased this table size by 1, which is this guy right here, and I added... Well, that's just documentation that was bugging me. I added the small butt marker here. So the only difference I really made to this one was I said whenever it dies, spawn the first bundle. So actually, let me go ahead and show that breakdown real quick. If you take these numbers and you break them down, this is the common one that every one of these will use. So for right now, ignore this one. I'm going to go over each of these guys first. The first one is claw swipe. So whenever you hit with claw swipe, it triggers this parameter. The second one is whenever you use roll, it triggers this parameter, and so on and so forth. Usually for crocodile bite, unless they exist in VGS, it will just flat out be zeros, and this is whenever you touch it in any other way, usually when the player gets hurt. Yes, jumping on the enemy counts as a way to attack, so if you want to make Goombas in your game, you can. there are only a few instances where this is actually applicable. As an example, if you are in Spiral Mountain and you jump on a vegetable, you will bounce off. Probably to show you that this is not Mario. You can't just jump on them. Try a different way. Try attacking them, right? Now, these hex values can be broken down into bit values. This first one is what happens with Banjo. Does he go into a bounce off state or a damage state? And then, if so, how far does he bounce off? The next one is what is the next state for this enemy? So for Bigbutt, this is the kill state. You'll see that for some enemies like Nipper, if you hit Nipper with an egg, it'll actually trigger a text. That's like an alternate state. When you hit a snippet and it flips upside down, that is an alternate state. And so it just changes like the marker around and stuff, right? This is... I actually don't know what this one is. I want to say it has something to do with sound effects, but I could be wrong, and I don't want to give misinformation, so I'm just gonna skip it. What is that one? I like wrote these down like notes at one point. Yeah, I don't know about this one. I'm not sure about that. How much damage does Banjo take? So, if for the most part, if you're doing an attack, you don't want Banjo to get hurt. But sometimes if you're like, hey, Banjo ran to the enemy, take 1 damage. There you go. What else did I have for notes there? This second to last one is how many hits does it take to trigger this next state? So in this case, this is the death state. How many hits does it take to kill this enemy? In this case, I put everything as 1. For the most part, you'll see eggs being more, and you'll see Wonder Wing always as 1. I have not seen Wonder Wing as anything but 1. Sometimes Wonder Wing doesn't even like kill an enemy, right? Like for the Grunty final battle, it just bounces off Grunty. So you'll actually see it says 0 on there, right? And then this last one is the numbered bundle to drop. For enemies that you can kill, this is either going to be a 1, 2, 3, where it's 1 honeycomb, 2 honeycombs, or 3 honeycombs, but you can change this to be like 5 notes, a mumbo token, you know, whatever else you want to make it. And so these are the values that I set for the small butt, the little butt. And then I don't think there's any other changes here besides like documentation. Yeah, that's just documentation. So now going back to here, that was what this marker is, the marker 9 bull. And if you're like, where did this value come from? I legitimately just went to the enumerators and I looked up the markers and I said, oh hey, oh, is 6 mumbo? No, it's 9. My bad. I saw that 9 wasn't being used, so I said, okay, I'm taking it. That's mine now. Whatever. So I put as like a number there, right? And then I also like added it to this table right here. So, let's actually go to the initial function for this guy, right? Let's show you off that one. When you're initializing it, we are saying here are the collision functions. We have the entity is dead function, the entity took damage function, and the entity hit the player function. These all, remember, transfer Banjo to different states. Hits Banjo, goes here. Gets hurt but doesn't die, goes here. Hits the player kills the entity, goes here, right? Those are all being set here when it's initialized, and then you set initialize equals to true. Once there should be a part where it says the default state is like 1 or whatever. Don't remember where it is. It's fine. Just the first state's more than likely gonna be 1, right? It says it somewhere. So going down to the actual changes, I said when Bigbutt falls, we are actually going to set a timer, right? That's this lifetime value. And I'm setting it to 4. Okay, it's already set to 4 seconds, right? That's how long Bigbutt usually lays on the floor, but I actually modified it to say if specifically the actor is Bigbutt, which is like the small butt. I just changed it around because I didn't want to have to change like the level set of files over, right? I said make the marker collide off, turn that off, right? So that the player can't actually hit the bull again and take damage or whatever, right? But then also change the lifetime to just 1 second. And then once it's actually in this fall state, if the actor is the Bigbutt, this guy is the function to despawn it. So also during this, right, we also have to mess around with this collision state function. Now, nothing actually changed here. This is just documentation, but you can see that the number of hits to trigger, right, gets recorded down here. And whenever you hit it, if it's not 0, it removes it from the remaining health. So if you, again, if it says 1 hits to trigger, you are doing 100% of its health right then and there. If it says 2, it will actually just do half. So all enemies have a health of 99. This is 100 divided by 2, so it would be 50. So 2 hits from this will knock out the enemy. Once it gets to a point here where it says if the hits to trigger was not 0, right? And actually, you can ignore this because this is me testing some shit. And the next collision state is 2, and the drop bundle is not 0. So remember, back going to this. This is the bundle number, right? In enemies' cases, 1 is 1 honeycomb, 2 is 2 honeycombs, 3 is 3 honeycombs. If it's not 0 and it's meant to die, it will spawn whatever that bundle is supposed to be, starting from this Jiggy, but that's at 0. So 1 after that is the honeycomb one, you know, so on and so forth. So important function to know. I think I also changed, yeah. So I said if we go into the die state, and actually, is that function somewhere else? No. Yeah, I don't think I'm even using this guy, actually. So I can probably get rid of that. That's fine. But one more thing about Bigbutt. But Bigbutt has a different marker depending on whether Bigbutt is up or laying down. When it's knocked down and the player tries touching it, instead of getting hurt, the player will just bounce off, right? So this guy adjusts the marker manually within the code. So I just said override this, right? Always use this one that I've made here. So the last thing you have to do in order to get this enemy to actually work is you have to spawn it in the level. There's a spawnable actor list add, and if you scroll down, for at least core 2, you will see that there's also if map visited. So some enemies only spawn in the lair if you have visited that level. As an example, tickers won't show up in the lair until you've entered Mumbo's Mountain, right? In our case, we actually didn't care if it visited the level. So going back all the way up here, we added these flags. You may be asking me, Jiggly, what are these flags? And let me tell you right now, I don't know. Let me go to the function itself. Hold up. Let me actually, I can right click that probably. So this is the function that takes in, oh, is it this function? No, it's somewhere in, oh yeah, it is. It takes in all of these flags and says, special things to do. As an example, whenever you hit the enemy, does it shoot out those particles? Does it like drop items, right? Now, I don't know what each of these means. Again, they're unknown. We'll probably do some documentation on this, but this function here, the add, is required in order to allow that enemy to be spawned within the map. So sorry that was a lot. Hopefully you guys learned something from that. I'm gonna try to make my own entity from scratch. I think that's gonna be super fun to do. But I don't have the ability to make a model, and I don't easily have a way to make animations. So what I might do is kind of pick and grab from different things in the game, maybe some unused items, and seeing if I can make a custom entity in the future from scratch base and have the code all cleaned up and stuff so that you guys can review. Until then, thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your Pride Month.